it's about performance. Oh, it's about performance. Yes, it's about performance. It's about performance back on the job.
Hi, this is Guy Wallace, and this is the Pursuing Performance Podcast. Welcome. This is another episode of the Pursuing Performance Podcast created by Google's Notebook LM after I fed it certain resources. See the show notes for links to those resources. And although I find the deep dives and explainers from Google's Notebook LM to be not perfect, I think they do a fairly good job with summarizing the resources that I've asked it to summarize.
Right now, there is this entirely invisible crisis happening in your company.
Oh, completely invisible.
Right, and it isn't a crashed server or some shattered supply chain or, a massive PR disaster. Those are the loud problems.
The ones that get all the attention.
Exactly. The real crisis is the fact that leadership likely have absolutely no idea how the daily work actually gets done. We are looking at this enterprise landscape where the most critical workflows are, well, they're completely unseen.
Which creates a, frankly, terrifying reality for anyone trying to steer a large organization.
Yeah.
I mean, you have thousands of processes executing every single day, and the people at the top are essentially flying blind.
Yeah.
They're just relying on these lagging financial indicators to tell them if the engine is even running, which is way too late.
Welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone. Today, our mission is to pull back the curtain on those hidden workflows that basically make or break a business.
That's a huge topic.
It really is. And we are extracting our insights today from a 2026 framework document by Guy W. Wallace. It's titled Enabling the Performance Competent Enterprise. And I mean, right out of the gate, Wallace makes this staggering claim.
Yeah, the 4 U's.
Right. The text states that most enterprise processes are unnamed, unmapped, unmeasured, and unmanaged.
And he uses this brilliant analogy of Sisyphus to capture what happens when you try to operate in that kind of environment.
The guy pushing the rock up the hill.
Exactly. In Greek mythology, Sisyphus is cursed to push this massive boulder up a hill forever, only to watch it roll right back down just as he nears the peak.
Just absolutely soul-crushing.
Right, and that is the exact psychological toll of trying to fix a business process without a structural map. You push the boulder, the systemic weight of the unmanaged process just crushes you, and you literally start over again on Monday.
And I feel like the natural reflex when you realize your entire company is unmapped is to just panic, right? Like you try to map every single thing by Friday.
Which is impossible.
Totally. But the text pulls this great lesson from the total quality management days, like at Motorola back in the early 1980s. And the rule is, do not try to boil the ocean for a cup of tea.
I love that phrase so much because you simply cannot tackle the entire enterprise at once. The sheer volume of data would paralyze you before you even began.
Yeah, you just drown in flowcharts.
Exactly. You have to be hyper-strategic about where you intervene.
Okay, let's unpack this. So if identifying that financial bleed is our goal, we first have to figure out what a healthy baseline even looks like, right?
You have to start with the end in mind.
Right. Before we can fix a business, we have to define what competence actually means in this setting.
Because you cannot manage a standard that you haven't clearly defined. And the text defines performance competence with absolute precision.
Let's hear it.
It is, quote, the ability to perform tasks to produce outputs to stakeholder requirements.
Okay, so that last part, stakeholder requirements, is where things get really complicated, I think.
Oh, absolutely.
Because when most people hear the word stakeholders, they immediately picture, shareholders or a board of directors sitting in a room.
Right, the people with the money.
Exactly. But the framework outlines this stakeholder hierarchy that is vastly more comprehensive than just the board.
It's a massive chain. It spans from society and government at the very top, flowing all the way down through executives, management, customers, employees, suppliers, and finally, the local community.
Wow, society at the top.
Yeah. And the implication here is profound, right? If your output does not meet the requirements of that entire continuous chain, the enterprise is not truly performance competent.
Which means, and this is huge, a process that generates massive profit for the executives, but say routinely violates a government environmental regulation, fundamentally fails the competence test.
It is a broken process.
Period. Regardless of the temporary financial gain.
Exactly. And the framework insists this definition holds true regardless of who or what is executing the work.
Right, because of AI and automation.
Yes. This standard applies to human tasks, machine tasks, standalone AI tasks, and AI-augmented tasks. The baseline for competence does not shift just because you swapped a human worker for an algorithm.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because the text makes this crucial distinction that feels incredibly relevant today with all this AI adoption. It separates all these tasks into two distinct buckets.
The doing and the thinking.
Right. Overt, which are the behavioral or doing tasks, and covert, which are the cognitive or thinking tasks.
The behavioral tasks are the overt actions we can easily observe, right? You can count them, measure them, record them on a camera.
Like clicking a mouse or tightening a bolt.
Exactly. But the cognitive tasks are entirely covert. They happen invisibly, inside the worker's head, analyzing 50 different variables before the physical action is ever actually taken.
So wait, here's my pushback on this. It sounds like programming AI to just take over is easy if we just look at the doing tasks, right?
Well, yes, if the job is purely robotic.
But isn't assuming AI can just take over human workflows, like, I don't know, giving a super fast assembly robot a wrench, but forgetting to tell it why it's building a car? Like, it doesn't know what the end goal is.
What's fascinating here is that that is the exact friction point the author is highlighting. I mean, AI developers often scrape user interface logs to see what a worker clicks the overt behavior, and they just assume they have captured the process.
But they completely miss the mental model.
Completely. They miss why the veteran worker paused for 3 seconds to verify some weird anomaly before clicking approve.
Right, that tacit knowledge.
Yes. If the work is purely rote and mindless, sure, AI can mimic the overt doing perfectly. But for any non-rote, effective performance, the covert cognitive tasks are the actual engine of success.
Because the master performers, the people who are really good at their jobs, they often don't even realize they are running those complex mental algorithms.
It's just second nature to them.
Right. It is purely muscle memory or gut instinct at this point.
Which means if you only program the overt behavioral steps into your automation, your AI will spectacularly fail the moment it encounters a variable outside that rote script.
It'll just break.
Exactly. These cognitive tasks must be elicited from the tacit knowledge of master performers, which is honestly much harder to extract than people think.
Okay, so we have this dual challenge. We need to capture highly complex covert cognitive tasks, but we also know, going back to the Motorola thing, we cannot boil the ocean and map the entire company at once.
Right, you'd go crazy.
So how does the framework suggest we actually target our efforts without getting totally overwhelmed?
We have to eat the enterprise elephant one bite at a time.
Classic.
You have to segment the enterprise architecture from the bottom up into 3 distinct levels: areas of performance, processes, and systems.
Okay, let's examine the lowest level first, those areas of performance, or AOPs.
Think of AOPs as the micro-level chunks of work. They are highly specific bundles of outputs and tasks. The text uses a video creation workflow as a really clear example.
Oh, right, I remember this.
The AOP isn't just broadly defined as make a video. It is segmented into sequential links. So first, review the request, then prepare the script treatment, then conduct reviews, then prepare the final script.
So it is the very granular step-by-step output.
Exactly.
And a failure in that very first AOP, like, say, failing to properly review the initial request that just cascades and corrupts every subsequent step.
The whole video is ruined before you even write a word.
Right. And then those individual AOPs roll up into the next architectural level, which are the processes.
Processes are the continuous chains of tasks that produce what the text calls worthy outputs for downstream customers.
Really, outputs. I like that.
It means it actually has value.
Yeah.
These are the workflows that move value through the company. When you want to achieve enterprise competence, these processes are your main target for intervention.
And then finally, we group those processes together into the highest functional level, which are systems.
Systems provide a logical container for all those processes, typically organized by function or department. And to illustrate how dangerously complex just one of these containers can be, the text lists 12 standard financial systems an enterprise might operate.
Right. Which includes massive operations like annual budgeting, order to cash, procure to pay, corporate tax management.
And that's just finance. Take order to cash as an example. That single system encompasses credit approvals, billing, inventory allocation, and collecting revenue.
It's huge.
Imagine the hundreds of interconnected processes and thousands of micro-level AOPs living just inside that one financial bucket.
So if I'm trying to synthesize this for you, the listener, if we think of a business like a restaurant, The AOP is chopping the onions.
Good analogy, yeah.
The process is making the signature soup, and the sister is the entire kitchen operation.
That's a perfect way to frame it, because if you try to overhaul the whole kitchen without understanding how the onions are chopped, you're going to ruin the soup.
Okay, so now that we have our bites of the elephant, the systems and processes, how do we actually categorize them to find the cost of nonconformance, which is basically the gaps causing all our problems?
To do that, we use the LCS Peer 1 view,
which stands for Leadership, Core, and Support. Let's break this LCS framework down, starting with leadership systems.
Leadership systems, which the text labels L1 through L6, are shared across the entire enterprise. They provide direction, resources, and stewardship.
Like strategic planning, stakeholder relationship management, things like that.
Exactly. Executives manage these systems to keep the enterprise, quote, evergreen.
Evergreen. That means adapting to environmental changes, right? Like new laws or market shifts.
Right. Proactive adaptation so the company doesn't go obsolete. But while leadership scans the horizon and steers the ship, the actual engine moving the ship forward is what the text categorizes as the core systems.
The reason for being.
Yes, the reason for being. While leadership systems are shared across the company, core systems are unique to each department. They directly produce the value for the customer.
But the text notes these 4 standard managerial core AOPs, right? Even though the work is unique, the management of it isn't.
Right. The 4 are planning, assigning, monitoring, and troubleshooting work. Regardless of whether you're making microchips or selling software, the management layer directing that value creation follows that standard behavioral pattern.
Which brings us to the final category, support systems, or S1 through S4.
These are crucial. They enable the core, and they actually have the highest potential for enterprise-wide standardization.
Let's list them real quick. So S1 is process design, S2 is human assets, so recruiting and training. S3 is environmental assets, which is a huge one, data, tools, culture, consequences. And S4 is special assignments.
Right.
So here's my question. What does this all mean for the listener? If the core systems are the real money makers, the unique things that actually serve the customer, why does the text emphasize standardizing the support systems so heavily?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, support systems are the upstream provisioning entities.
Upstream provisioning.
Yes. If your downstream core processes are failing, say your sales team is missing quotas, it's almost always due to inadequate support enablers upstream.
Oh, wow. So the natural executive reaction is to yell at the sales team, the core workers.
Exactly. Blame the people doing the work.
But this framework suggests the failure is likely upstream, like bad data or broken tools.
Precisely. The core worker cannot succeed if the support system fails to provide the required assets. Maybe the S3 environmental asset, their CRM software, is malfunctioning. Or maybe there's a broken culture where the immediate consequences punish the exact behavior the company claims to want.
Okay, so once we've found this failing process in our LCS framework, how do we actually look inside it to fix it? This brings us to the Tier 2 and Tier 3 analysis.
This is where we contrast the 2 main diagnostic tools, process maps and performance models.
The macro view versus the micro view.
Right. Process maps are the macro view. It's a visual flow of who's doing what over a time horizon.
Like a standard flow chart.
Exactly. It maps the current state versus the should-be future state. But then you have performance models, which are the micro view. This drills down into specific output requirements, human task requirements, and the gaps between current performance and your master performers.
Okay, but I've seen a million flowchart process maps in my career. Do we really need performance models too? Doesn't a good map tell you everything you need to know?
Not even close.
Really?
The text points out a critical distinction here. Maps only give you the structure, the roles, and the time. Models give you the enablers.
The enablers, right?
If a worker doesn't have the right training, which is a human asset, or the right software, an environmental asset, the flowchart is useless.
Because it just shows you where the breakdown happened, not why.
Exactly. You must never assume it's always the people who need to be fixed. Often, it's the environment.
That is such a massive psychological trap in management. When a process fails, the instinct is to just fire the worker or force them into some generic training seminar.
But by leveraging a performance model, you often uncover that the human is perfectly capable. It's the environment that's broken. You can train an employee on data analysis for 100 hours, but if the S3 environmental asset, the software they are forced to use, is fundamentally flawed, that performance gap will never close.
It creates a framework of true structural accountability.
It forces the enterprise to take responsibility for the assets it provides. instead of just scapegoating the worker.
Which completely shifts how you approach organizational design.
Completely.
So, to summarize the value here for you listening, whether you are managing a massive corporate merger or just trying to organize a messy internal team project, don't boil the ocean. Segment the elephant into leadership, which is your strategy, core, which is your unique value, and support your tools and people.
And find your master performers.
Yes, find them and map their cognitive tasks, not just their physical ones.
Which actually leads to a really interesting, maybe even a little unsettling final thought to leave everyone with.
Oh, let's hear it.
Think about your own day-to-day job. What is a covert cognitive task you do effortlessly? Split-second judgment call or pattern recognition that isn't written down in any company manual anywhere.
Oh, everybody has at least one of those.
Right. Now ask yourself, if your company tried to replace that specific task with AI tomorrow, how spectacularly would it fail? Because that tacit knowledge was never actually captured in a performance model.
Oh, wow. It would just instantly crash and burn.
Because they didn't map the thinking, just the doing.
That is a phenomenal question to mull over. Thank you all so much for joining us on this deep dive. The next time you hit a wall in your workflow, step away from the Sisyphus boulder, look for the unmapped cognitive tasks, and check your upstream enablers. We will see you next time.
It's about performance. Oh, it's about performance. Yes, it's about performance. It's about performance back on the job. It's about performance.